What's the length of this?
90 metres, 90. So there's your saddle tank, subdivided to water, ballast and fuel. Hydroplanes, one here, one on the other side. Horizontal rudders. When she's underwater getting along, it's through those forward hydroplanes that the planesman is keeping that submarine on course and at whatever depth. He uses those to trim. For surfacing and diving, you've got hydroplanes right down aft. Now naturally you use those because you get leverage from down there. The deck of the submarine is called the casing, and we have the conning tower. We actually call it the fin. I do use the term conning tower, but it's a more common term. We call it the fin. The Americans call it the sail. Okay?
Okay.
All right, let's... Okay, that's the pressure hull. That's the hull we're in the whole time. This running down both sides is what is called our saddle tanks. Okay, you can see running along there. And they are subdivided for water ballast and fuel. On the top of every ballast tank there's a valve, all the way along on both sides. Underneath there's an opening. And the way the submarine works, when you're on the surface, your water level's somewhere around there, you've got positive buoyancy, just like any ship in the harbour. When you want to dive, you open those valves up, let the air
Water
out.
come in.
Oh, you open that up to let the air out,
Yeah.
and the water floods
Flood in
Yes.
and take it
You
down.
get heavy and down you go.
Okay.
When you want to surface, you blow compressed air back into those tanks, force the water out, you get light and up you come.
Very easy.
Okay.
Very clever.
Right here. Let's go. Out the front door. That is part of what we call sonar.
Yeah.
Sonar is an acronym for sound, navigation and ranging. Okay. The submarine uses sonar in a passive mode. It uses sonar to listen.
Yes.
And what it listens for is the giveaway sounds of ships or other submarines without giving its position away. A ship looking for a submarine, he uses sonar in an active mode. He's sending sound signals through the water. If he picks up a submarine, that sound signal will bounce back. Boink, boink. And from that, he can determine bearing and distance and lock onto you. And the submarine then will be trying to get away from it. So the submarine's got a lot of sonar, but it uses it passively, where a ship looking for a submarine uses it actively. That's your two differences. Just stop at this little drawing, I'll show you where we're going to go.
Yeah.
We're going to climb the steps over there. We're going to come onto the submarine around about here. We're going to climb down through a hatch there, so we're going to be behind here.
Yeah.
Then we're going to make our way back through the accommodation. The control room, that's the nerve centre of the submarine. We don't go up the conning tower, but I'll show you the access to that. We were then going into the engine room and the motor room, and then finish off right down after what we call the aft torpedo compartment. We'll climb up through some stairs there, come along here and back down the stairs. So that's the route of the tour.
Okay.
And there's more of them. That's where your water is taken in when you're diving. That's where you blow it out again.
I see.
Surfacing. We've got mesh over them. They don't normally have mesh. We do that to keep pigeons from getting in there and nesting. That's the only reason. So they're all the way along, and that's where your ballast tanks are all worked from.
But question, you say that there is it's divided to sections,
Yes.
and from there till there,
Yep.
it's one big section that I cannot see any inlet of water coming.
No.
Why?
It's because those tanks are bigger in this part of the submarine. It's because your next openings are there
Yes.
to there. Those tanks are larger at that point.
I see.
Along here you can see your valve positions for your ballast tanks, and the same down that side. There's a hatch there, unfortunately we can't see it. That's your normal way in and out the submarine in harbour. Rarely open that at sea. To come on the casing at sea, you come out that hatch there below the bell. We've got a bell, as you probably know. All ships have bells, commercial ships and naval ships. Now that isn't the actual bell. The actual bell's in the museum, and the reason it's there is I'll use the word tradition. We have a tradition in our Navy whereby on any naval ship, if any of the crew have a newborn child and you would like your newborn baptised on board your ship, you can do it. It's very personal. My son was done. What you do, you use the bell of your ship, or submarine in this case, you upturn it, put water in it, you have a naval chaplain to do the service, and you baptise your child accordingly.
Oh, wow.
After it, sometime after, you get that bell and you engrave the child's name on the inside forever.
Wow.
The actual bell is up in the museum, and there are 55 children's names engraved in it that have all been baptised on board the submarine.
Wow.
It's a lovely little,
Wow.
it only
idea.
appeals to some
Wow.
people, but it's a lovely little. Rightio, let's go down below.
We are now going on a submarine and we are going down. Wow, first time for in my life that I'm on a submarine.
Well, great, and I'm glad
Wow.
you're doing it with me.
Wow, and very good air conditioning here.
Yeah, well, we try. Okay, where we are now, we call this the forward torpedo compartment because the primary role of this compartment is torpedoes. We call it the forward one because there is an aft torpedo compartment. So that's why we call this the forward. If we only had one, we would just call this the torpedo compartment.
It's designed specially to have two way of protection from the front on the back, or it not connected?
The aft torpedo compartment is really a little bit of a hangover of World War II days, when all submarines were built with tubes forward and tubes aft, because it gave you the ability to carry some more torpedoes, but the captain of the submarine could shoot behind if he was being chased. I'm talking in a wartime situation. But with the advent of the wire-guided torpedo, that's what we have now, it made shooting behind redundant. Because we can fire a torpedo from forward and turn it round and send it back to a target.
I see.
So no submarines have tubes aft anymore. But on this submarine, we have two. So this is the forward one.
If you can again just explain what is the wire torpedo.
Right. The wire, it is called a wire-guided torpedo. When you fire that torpedo, the torpedo is linked back into the submarine by a very fine wire.
All the way?
All the way into the submarine.
Even if it's 1 mile or 2
Yes,
miles?
exactly.
So you need a huge wires inside here.
You do. You do. There's wire in the torpedo, and you also have additional wire on a fitting. You will connect them together to get your total distance. So when you fire that torpedo, and I'll show you in the control room, you can influence where that torpedo is heading, particularly to its target. You are doing that
with the wires, through the wire.
You are giving the torpedo directions.
I see.
Electronically.
Because it's very hard to get any connection with torpedo after he's under the water and he left the submarine?
Well, you can't do it electronically, okay, because it is in the water. So that's why you have that wire connection.
Wow, that's something very interesting.
Yeah.
First time.
Yeah. A lot of aeroplanes are called fly-by-wire because their controls from the cockpit or flight deck, their controls are given to the aircraft's ailerons, etc., by wire, rather than a rod, not block or pulley, but rods connected all the way through. So when you move your helm, that will go down. You do it down a wire,
right,
by giving it an electronic instruction.
Okay.
That's called, in an aeroplane, it's called fly-by-wire. Okay, so 6 tubes, 3 on either side of the bow. Torpedoes all kept in here, on that side and on this side over here.
How many torpedoes submarine has?
Look, it varied because of the aft torpedoes. Between 18 and 20 torpedoes could be carried in
18 to 20?
Yes, carried in the submarine, yes. That's in your tubes and in racks. Okay, so we're showing a torpedo partly loaded. Now, just to explain it, and I'll keep it simple, we do not open the inner hatch until we have checked that the one at the seaward end is shut and there's no water in that tube. As yachtsmen, you can understand the need for doing that. Once you have checked there's no water in the tube and the outer hatch is shut, you can open the inner one. It's safe to do that. You load your torpedo like we're doing there, you shut the hatch, you secure it, you flood the tube, and then you open the hatch down the seaward end. You fire your torpedo with a blast of compressed air, boom, like that. The motor on the torpedo triggers in, and the torpedo leaves the submarine under its own power with its propellers spinning. Once it's gone, shut the hatch, and the water in the tube you pump down to a compensating tank down below, and then later you can pump that water out. So look, that's it in fairly simple terms, but like a lot of things are simple, it's a matter of how you do them. That's
right.
Now the other thing in this compartment which is vitally important is escape. The worst fear of any submariner is to have an accident and to have your submarine disabled on the seabed and you cannot surface. That is your worst fear, because you're going to die. So you have to have an escape ability. And you have 2 options. And primarily nowadays, one of those options is the more common, but in the days of these boats it wasn't. But you have 2 options. One is to be rescued, that's your best option. The second option is to swim out, okay? Now, in this compartment, this is the escape compartment. Now, on all submarines, picture that's a submarine, there are always 2 escape compartments, one right forward and one right aft. One's the primary one and one is the secondary. Generally, the primary one is full. So you have a secondary in case the accident is such that some of the crew can't get into the primary compartment. They can go to the secondary one. On this submarine, this is the primary escape compartment. So if we were to have an accident and be disabled, the crew will come into here. That is our escape trunking up through here. There's a hatch up on the casing above, and this trunking comes down lower. This is our escape trunking. Now, we would get all the crew in here. Vitally important to have clean oxygen. So everyone will be plugged into all these points around here, and you're plumbed into an emergency oxygen supply. They're all around here and they go along down the bottom as well. So you've got all the crew in emergency oxygen. We have underwater telephone here, which is another form of sonar. So if we were with another submarine, we can talk to him, tell him what the problem is, anyone hurt, just what the situation is. If a rescue ship came to us, he has a hydrophone, and the same thing. We can talk to them and we can explain what's going on. Now, if you're going to be rescued, and that is option one, the best option, you have a mini sub, a submersible. This is kept at our naval base here. It's on 24/7 standby. That will come out to the submarine on a rescue ship, and he looks like that. Now that hatch is compatible with the hatch above there. So he could come down to the submarine, lock on, decompress. You can open the hatch, and the crew in here can go along here, up those steps, and climb up into there. You can't take all the crew, so you might have to do 2 or 3 trips. But that way, you rescue the crew. That's the best way out of a submarine. If it's
Wow, it's beautiful here.
right.
It's very nice.
What time's your ferry again?
2:45.
No, 3:15, isn't it?
2:45, right?
Quarter to
4.
four.
No?
Quarter to 4.
Quarter to 4. Okay, so we're on here at 2. We got to get you. Okay, we get round through here in an hour. You'll have plenty of time just
It's
to walk down
written
the wall.
here.
3:45, I think.
13:45. Yes.
Oh, okay.
No problem.
Okay. All right, this is the first bit of accommodation. This is what we call our junior sailors accommodation. Everyone had their own bunks on these submarines. There's no luxuries like sheets, pillowcases, because the submarine doesn't have a laundry, so you can't launder anything. So therefore,
so they sleep with the
sleeping bags were the easiest. At the end of a long trip, you could take all the bags off and have them laundered, put them back on again. Because there's no laundry on these submarines, your dress on board was very casual. Sandals, shorts, t-shirts. The sort of clothes that at the end of a long trip you will probably throw away because they will smell of the submarine. The only time on these submarines the crew would be seen in uniform would be when the submarine's in harbour, the crew are always in uniform, or if you're leaving harbour or coming into harbour, the crew on deck always in uniform. But once you got to sea, you can take your uniform off, stow it away, clean somewhere, and then go to casual, very casual dress. Out of I know the total crew on these boats, very little bit, 8 officers and 56 sailors, 64. Now that could vary up or down slightly. Out of that total crew, you carried 2 cooks. One tended to have that bunk and one had that bunk, normally. This bunk folds down and makes a settee across here.
yes.
Now, there's no dining room on board, so you go to the galley, get your meal, and in the case of the junior sailors, bring it back here, have your meal, and take your dirty dishes back to the galley. And someone in the crew or a group will be detailed off to wash the dishes. The cooks don't wash dishes, they make food, prepare food. So it's very close living, but it's very comfortable considering, and you people in your catamaran will certainly appreciate the comfort of this.
Right.
Just as a matter of interest, see that black and white photograph in front of the television? That is one of the 224 battery cells I showed you in the museum,
Yes.
that are directly under this deck we're standing on.
Wow.
The other 224 are further aft. That just shows you physically what it looked like
Wow.
down here.
Yes.
Okay, let's
Okay.
keep wandering. That's an oxygen regenerator. Rarely used, but if needs to be used it can be. It's a chemical reaction through a candle you put in there, and that creates oxygen if you need it. Not normally needed in these submarines, because the submarine does have to surface quite regularly to charge the batteries. When you do that and running your jennies, you're expelling all the foul air and you're bringing in good new air as well. It's only if you're spending a lot of time underwater that those CO2 levels can start to rise a little bit. Now, that's your normal way out, that's in and out the submarine in harbour.
I see.
The hatch I couldn't quite show you.
Yes.
Okay, that bit of accommodation is for what we call our senior sailors, so that's petty officers and chief petty officers. That's their accommodation, which is comfortable also.
Yeah.
We have a letterbox here, so
Ah.
we could write a letter to Mum and say, Mum, I'm safe and sound, I'm having a good trip. She'll get it eventually.
Nice.
Okay, here's the galley. And you're certainly well versed yourselves in working in a galley on a boat. And bearing in mind, this is a galley for, 64 people.
And we have one like this for 2.
Yeah, that's right. They kept their dry stores down here.
Yeah.
The refrigerator stores kept further aft. Okay. This is the garbage ejector, something you don't do nowadays. On these submarines you did. It was only garbage out the galley would be put in these calico bags, weights put in it, sealed off and pumped out here to go to the seabed and rot. Well, nowadays you're not allowed to do those things.
Okay.
So that shows their age a little bit. That's a can crusher. That's where you would crush up any food
Very
cans,
nice.
yeah, and put them in there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Keep going. This is an unusual bunk. You can see how it's cut.
Design. Yeah.
Now that was called the bunk for the one-legged sailor,
Yes.
because that bunk had to be cut so that hatch could be opened.
Right.
So whoever drew that bunk drew the short straw. Or you might have been a one-legged sailor. This is the officers' accommodation, which we call the wardroom.
Ah. Okay.
So what you saw originally was junior
Yes.
sailors, then you saw senior sailors, and now you saw officers.
We can take just my just this one. It's too hot now for me. We are here in a submarine and it's too hot for me, so I'm taking it like this. Great. Okay. We continue.
Okay, we are in the control room. So,
Now it's ventilator. Let's
so this is
Wow.
the nerve center of
yes.
the submarine.
Wow.
Now right above your head,
Yes.
that is where you
Wow.
climb up to the top of the conning tower, or
I
the
see.
fin as we call it.
Yes.
That's where you go through up there. Now I'll explain.
Wow,
I'll go from over here.
Yes.
These two stations are called our fire control stations. This is where we work up, we program in everything about the weapons we're firing, and particularly if it's a wire-guided torpedo, this is where we guide them from. So you can work 2 torpedo tubes if you wanted to, or you can work 1 tube, one tube as a backup, whatever you like. But that's where everything is done with respect to programming your weapons and firing on. Behind here is the sonar operator.
Yeah.
So he is the person who's listening through all the hydrophones, which we can't show you other than what I did show you on the old Oxley. He's the one listening through all those hydrophones, and what he's listening for is the giveaway sounds of a ship or another submarine. And those giveaway sounds, as I'm sure you understand, firstly, propeller noise or anything. And if you pick up a sound, every sound you pick up is a target. Even if you come across the Queen Mary would be identified as a target and given a number. So whenever you pick up anyone in your area, we plot them here. This is the contact evaluation plot. You plot on here any particular targets in your area. Couple of reasons. We have to come to the surface regularly to charge the batteries. We don't want to bang into a ship on the way up. The other reason is, look, we may be gathering intelligence, and we may be somewhere that's a bit critical that no one knows we're there. If we keep any ships plotted who might be looking for us, we make sure they don't find us.
But nowadays it's not connected to the chart plotter and connected to
not directly, no.
Overlay on the chart plotter.
No, we
on
do
the
that
way.
here.
We
do that here. This is the navigator's position.
Yes,
okay,
that's Admiralty chart.
he has his charts. He has all his manuals through there. They've all gone. We got compass repeater, gyro repeater, speed through the water. This is an old sat nav. We have GPS nowadays.
Yes.
Down below we have a radar.
Yeah.
Over here we have an echo sounder.
Yes.
Now the way of plotting a submarine is primarily dead reckoning.
Yeah.
It's done on a very basic INS system.
Very old system. Dead reckoning.
You actually, on this system down here, is set up with a light running. What is running that is being fed into it. Submarines course, submarines speed. So it's a dead reckoning plot.
Yes.
But
and sometimes if you raise
as soon as you go to the surface,
you can see some places
right,
on the
take a fix.
Take
That's
a fix. Right.
Over
you
here,
service on a ship, right?
Yes.
On a submarine?
No, surface ship. I was a navigator.
Ah.
Okay. Here's the planesman. So he's like the helmsman.
Yes.
Okay. A one-man operation or one-person operation. World War II submarines, that was up to 4 to 5 people. By the time you got into after the war, learned lessons, this came down to a one-person operation. So a little bit like flying an aeroplane.
Yeah.
You know? So he has his course. He's got his depth here and here, just to.
He has automatic pilot.
It does have automatic pilot, yes. Used at the discretion of the captain. Okay. Here we have the officer of the watch.
Yes.
As you know, the officer of the watch is the person
in
with
charge.
the conduct of the submarine for a particular watch. And then working all through here is your team that are working your ballast control, trimming the submarine, raising your masts or whatever. There's a team working through there.
Wow, it's a little bit confusing me here. It's too many pumps and stories.
Well, that's why you have to be trained, and you have to be skilled in understanding what all they are.
Wow.
All those are. We have a bubble down here for being able to keep
Yes,
the
to
submarine
keep your
horizontal.
balance. That it will
Now, I told you about top of the conning tower. If I go over here, I'll be the right way around for you, just so I can explain what things are. This here is a periscope. That is a periscope. Unfortunately, we can't put them up, so I can't show them to you in the actual working mode, okay? But just to explain, that one is this one. It's called the attack periscope. It's very thin, as you can see. The captain uses this for special occasions, attackers in a wartime situation. It's very thin. You never have the water level. This was done for photographic reasons.
Yes.
Your water level would normally be about there.
So nobody can see it almost.
We'll try to do that. Up
Yes.
very quickly, take a bearing, pop it down. So that's very thin, it's monocular. That one there is the working periscope of the submarine.
Yeah.
That's this one. It's called the
Which one
search
is-
periscope.
which
That
one?
one is that one.
Yes.
And that is the attack
That I
periscope.
know, and this one?
That one is that one, and that's called the search periscope. This one is binocular. Both of them, you have long range, short range. Both can angle up to look for aircraft. That one has a bubble sextant in it, so you can come up to periscope depth, take a star sight if necessary. Okay.
Right.
That one you can put a camera in, you can photograph through it. Now the next mast, and as we go down you'll see them, that's the radar down there for the navigator. This one is electronic surveillance mast. It's an aerial that can pick up radar signals from other ships or aircraft, and you can determine are they friend or foe. Okay. The next one is interesting. That one and that one work together. It's called a snort. Now, as I told you, we have diesel engines in the boat, diesel generators. The diesel generators are there to charge the batteries and provide the generating power for the submarine. We can only run them when we're on the surface because it's an internal combustion engine, they need air. So you would normally come to the surface, open up your hatches, and you can run your diesels to charge your batteries and get rid of the foul air at the same time.
Right.
Because we can't run underwater the diesels because we're in a vacuum.
Right.
Now, if we're in somewhere, a place where we need to charge our batteries, but we don't want to risk being found, what we can do, we come along down here, we put him up, and we put him up. Now that is a snorkel. So down here we start our diesels, we draw air into the submarine, we run our diesels, our exhaust goes out there. It's a way of charging your batteries underwater at periscope depth. As soon as your batteries are charged, stop your diesels, drop them, disappear.
I see.
The one in the middle is telescopic, it's radio communications. So, you might have looked at a submarine before, and you've looked at that big conning tower, or we call it the fin. You might have asked yourself a very simple question: why is it that big? What does it do? If you think about it, it has to be at least that
All
big.
of them, yes.
Because on every submarine there's 2 periscopes, and depending on the submarine there's a whole lot of other kit. So
Wow.
that's what's really telling you what that fin or conning tower, what is that?
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll keep walking.
Yeah, just continue where we are now.
This is the captain's cabin. The captain has his own cabin. That's because he's in command. His cabin is right here because if the officer of the watch calls him and he happens to be in his cabin, he can be out very quickly. So he's in there. That's one of my old uniforms when I used to be a dashing young naval officer with a girlfriend in every port. Right, the heads.
Interested?
The heads, as you know,
Yes.
Radio shack, all that radio equipment's been removed, all the primary stuff's been removed.
I'm sure.
But that was your radio room. There's a shower here, we have a shower in there. So right behind you is the plaque, the maker's plaque, here.
Where?
HMAS Ovens, that's
Ah.
the name of the submarine. HMAS stands for Her Majesty's Australian Ship. HMAS Ovens, she was built at Scott Shipbuilding in Greenock in Scotland in 1969. And we had 6 of these submarines and they were all built there. Okay, engine room. 2 big V16 diesels, turbocharged, just over 2,000 horsepower each. Now, we just remember we're on a diesel electric submarine, okay? Our propellers are turned by electric motors. These do not turn the propellers, okay? These are diesel generators.
It's charging the batteries.
Exactly, and providing the power for the boat at the same time. And the reason we have 2, because we have 2 banks of batteries and we have 2 propellers. Yeah, pretty noisy place on the surface when you're getting along. But when the submarine is underwater, she is very, very quiet, because underwater there are no mechanical moving parts, apart from your propellers.
Yes.
Nothing else. So, yeah, typical engine room, but these are generators. That is an electric motor turning the port propeller. There is one on the other side, on the starboard side. That's a 3,000 horsepower electric motor. That's what turns your propeller.
I see.
Okay, electrical control room. Okay, propulsion power, main power, auxiliary power.
Yeah.
Always manned at all times. That is, half of that is your port controls, your port propeller, your port engine. That's your starboard side. So if the captain was manoeuvring the submarine, let's say for example he gave an order, stop starboard, slow astern port. That gauge up there would go to stop. This one would go around here to slow astern, and the fellow in here would stop the starboard electric motor, which would stop the propeller. Over here he would go to slow astern on his port electric motor and manoeuvre the submarine. Now on a surface ship, this would be in an engine room, because your engines would be connected via a gearbox to your propellers. We come back to that we're a diesel electric submarine. We're running on electrics.
So the diesel engines running the batteries.
Yes.
The batteries give energy to the electrical motors.
That's right.
And the electrical motor running the shaft of the propeller, so it's very quiet under the water.
Absolutely.
No noise.
Spot on. Spot on.
Right.
You've listened to my lesson very closely.
Okay.
No, you're right. That is correct.
Wow. What is this concert hall?
Now, this is the aft torpedo compartment.
It's a concert hall here in comparison to what we saw before.
Yeah, you could, but once upon a time you couldn't.
You couldn't move because
no.
it was full of torpedoes here.
That's exactly right. There were racks in here for torpedoes, and they were tubes that looked exactly like what you saw up
Yes.
forward. It was when the wire-guided torpedo got invented, it made shooting behind redundant. Because you can fire your torpedo from forward, and through that wire you can guide it back to your target. So no submarines have tubes aft anymore. And I've often thought that this boat and the other 5, being built 1969s, around there, 70, could have been the last submarines built in the world with tubes aft. Because 1970-71 was when the wire-guided torpedo got invented. So we are looking at a real bit of history here.
Yes.
And no submarines have this anymore. So they were taken out, the racks were taken out. Now the crew that lived down this end of the submarine were our technical ratings. They were like your mechanics, your engineers, your electricians. They lived here because they're close to everything. Okay?
Right.
So they got a bit more living space. If you look at this, you can tell this is the secondary escape compartment.
Right.
When you come through the hatch, you wouldn't have noticed that it was right above your head, the actual
Right.
escape hatch. So the primary one is up forward, where I showed you. This is the secondary.
Second one from here.
Yeah. No, it's round the corner there.
Oh.
Yeah. This is the hatch to load
That's it.
torpedoes, when it was a torpedo hatch. Now, one thing I do like to just finish off here, you get a feel here for the pressure hull. You know,
Yeah.
you can see it, you can feel it. That's about 25 mil thick, that's steel, all the way around. It's a bit heavier around the engine room. It's framed like this all the way through, all the way
Yes.
through. So that gives the hull that strength. It allows the submarine to go down to 200 metres and it will survive. Now naturally it would have a crush depth and I have no idea what that would be. You wouldn't want to find out. You could assume twice your design depth. Personally, I think it would be before 400 metres. But there is a depth it would crush. But this submarine could go to 200 metres safely. Now, just something I'd like to point out finally. This submarine is a tube, okay?
Yes.
And we build it safely to go down to 200 metres. But then we cut two big holes in it. One here, a big elliptical hole here, and another one right up forward. And if you think about it, once we cut those holes, this hole here, and the one where you climbed in, we have destroyed the structural integrity of that tube.
Right.
If we did nothing about it, other than shut the watertight hatch, stop water coming in, if we did nothing about it and went to sea and went down to 200 metres, we wouldn't get there. The submarine would implode because that's a weakness.
Right.
So how do we get around it?
How?
See those bars?
Yes.
They're called strong backs, okay? I wouldn't ask you to pick them up, they're very heavy. What they do, before you go to sea, you put them in here. See, you've got a frame here, stops and starts here. So one bar replaces the missing bit of frame.
Ah, I see.
That frame stops and starts there.
It continues the structure.
That's right. And then you put two in the middle to beef it up.
So
Now-
it looks like it was original, more or
Yeah,
less.
what you've done is you've replaced that element
Yes.
of the frame to get back that structural integrity again.
Right.
Now on this submarine, there's a great example of pressure, a physical example. She's gone to sea one day, they put the bars in, and while she's been getting along, she's obviously been rolling and maybe pitching, one of these bars has had a little rattle in it, just a very slight rattle. Now the crew that were down here wanted to stop it, so what they did, they got a couple of coins, because the actual rattle point was just the thickness of a coin. So they dropped two coins in there, and that stopped the rattle. And then the submarine dived. If you look where my finger is,
Yes.
you will see the indentation of those two coins.
Uh-huh. I see. Wow.
So, isn't that a terrific
Example.
physical example of what's happening to pressure?
Right.
So had you not put those bars in there, you wouldn't be alive today.
Right.
Terrible.
Wow.
Terrible death. All right, I think that's... Oh, one last thing. See these green tins down here?
Yes.
See them on top of that machine?
Right.
Okay, that's a CO2 scrubber.
Oh.
If you're underwater for a long, on these submarines, for a long period of time, with 60-odd crew, those CO2 levels can rise.
Yes.
If they do, and you can't surface for some reason, you put these filters on that machine, and there's one up forward, crank it up, and what it does, it filters out the CO2, so you get good clean air back in here again. Not often a problem on these boats, because generally, maybe every day, every second day, maybe it's pushing it out a bit, you come up to the surface to charge your batteries. In doing that, you are replacing a lot of the foul air.
Yes.
But it's if you're spending a lot of time on that snort, that's when you might
You
have
need
to,
it,
because you're
yes.
not getting that turnover.
How you make communication if you are under the water?
Well, you have to come to the surface.
Always.
Yeah.
No,
No.
any new invention to speak
No, you
while
still
you
got
are
to. No,
under the water?
you can do it at you do it at periscope depth. You can get communication at
But
periscope
without
depth,
periscope,
but
from
you still-
100 meter.
No, you still have to have an aerial to be able to pick up and receive signals. Yes.
But you know that, as example, whales
Yeah.
communicate between the world, between the seas.
Yes.
Even a whale can speak with another whale
Yes.
in this one side of the Pacific Ocean to the other side.
That's called sonar.
Yes.
That's called sonar.
So
that's
how
what a
how
submarine does.
how the human being couldn't create or imitate the sonar and to send it, like, to make it communication?
Well, I'm afraid I can't answer you in any great detail on that.
I see.
Communications are obviously better, but nevertheless you normally will have to come up to periscope depth. Now on the latest big nuclear boats, maybe they can do that, but I'm afraid I do not know that.
I'll try to
On
look
these
on
boats you always came up to periscope depth to put your aerial
it.
up.
Of course.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much.
you fine with
Super.
all that? Is
Yes.
that a good tour? I think we've
Good
done
tour.
it pretty
Yes.
well.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, up we
Super.
go.
We're going out now from the submarine.
Now you can see that periscope.
Yes.
Now that is the identical periscope, I call the search periscope, the second one.
Yeah.
That's what it would look like if it was sticking out the top of the conning tower.
Uh-huh.
We can't put them up.
Yes. Unbelievable trip we've done here. It's unbelievable.
I only do one day.
That's the shaft. That's the propeller. That's the propeller of
That is the propeller that came off, or one of the propellers came off that submarine. And they're identical are on here.
Yeah.
Just to show you how their shape.
Yes. I'm glad that you explained me for the first time in my life.
The conning tower.
Yes. Why it's
there.
It's there and why it's wide like this.
Yes.
If you need just to take one periscope. Yeah.
That's right.
But now I understand that there is
There's
maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 can
7
be.
masts in there. That's right.
Wow.
You can raise them as you need them.
Yeah. Wow. So beautiful.
Yes.